Warning, we are a spoilers podcast. At times we are also an offensive podcast. And we are most certainly a verbally explicit podcast. So if you fear for any of your delicate sensibilities, please back up now before you reach the point of no return. Alright, pussies, this is your final warning.
Hello and welcome to Cinematic Anarchy. I'm Zeph. It's been a while. It's nice to speak with all of you. I'm here with one of my co-conspirators. We have
Chris. Me.
Chris.
Or El Jefe, as
Jefe.
Omar's been calling me.
El Jefe.
Omar's not around, so I don't know if I can use that, but we'll see. I don't mind.
Hey, it's America. We can do whatever we want.
After the introduction, we rarely call ourselves by name anyway.
All right. Well, anyways, today, we are here to discuss a featured film, which is Between the Darkness.
Yeah, we're doing a little midweek bonus. So this is
bonus for
not
this.
a regular episode. This is a bonus episode that we're just sort of doing. Tri-Coast Entertainment provided us the opportunity to watch this before its release. To kind of give our opinion, and I do apologize, Tri-Coast, for taking so much time to get this slapped together, but here we are, and we're going to go ahead and talk about the movie.
Between the Darkness, also known as Come Said the Night, which honestly, both of those titles to me kind of don't go with the movie itself. I like it. I mean, there was a lot going on.
I liked the movie, okay. The title did not prepare me for what we were going to watch.
Okay.
So it was definitely, I don't know about the title of the movie. I'll give you that one.
This particular podcast is based off this horror thriller. It was directed by Andres Rivera.
And by the way, fantastic direction throughout. The guy provided spectacular visuals throughout the entire movie.
There was a lot that went into this. I mean, the production company, Miller Dimitri Pictures. If you do want to view this movie, you can go on Vudu, Fandango, or Prime Video.
It is video on demand, so those are it's up now, ready for purchase.
So honestly, this is a movie that I would recommend if you're into movies themselves. If you just want to go for any mainstream movie and you don't enjoy, I'll call it an indie film. I don't know if you'd enjoy it, but if you enjoy the direction of movies, how they're put together, I definitely suggest going to one of those three sites and watching it.
I would put this as much as, or as far as they're calling it a horror thriller, I would put this sort of in an area of sort of an artfully done sort of psychological thriller. It's a bit of a slow burn in the beginning, and then there's a couple of incidences near the midpoint of the movie, and then it just takes off from there.
Yeah, and it wasn't a scary movie to me at all. So the horror, I definitely don't really see. Maybe it's because I don't really get afraid of movies. I mean, I just watched the second It of the new It Chapter 2, and it was a very well put together movie, but I wasn't scared.
Yeah, well, we're not here to talk about
we're not here
it anyway. I don't think this is a scary movie by any stretch of the imagination.
When you hear horror.
Well, it was a horror thriller, so I feel it airs more on the thriller side. There was a little bit of horrific imagery near the end. Very brief amount of horror, more thriller than anything else. I really feel that the actors that they chose were actually pretty perfect in their roles.
Yeah,
I loved Danielle Harris. She was fantastic as the Ranger.
We had the father Roy, who when you look at Roy, okay, you can see loving father, but you also see kind of creep. I'd give it creep.
Well, I've seen him in a few things, and he's played some seriously creepy roles in the past, and this one was no exception at all. Yeah. He played loving father to start with, and as the movie went on, it just sort of slowly devolved. His secrets started to unravel throughout the entire movie, and he became unhinged.
So, essentially he was unhinged the entire time. I mean, this follows a father named Roy, played by Lou Temple.
Yes.
He actually, what they do is they live in this sanctuary up in the mountains. So they're secluded from day-to-day life. You know, they have some technology there. You know, like I believe they have a phone. You know, they're not so that go out and play is more. So when we were younger, go out and play. You don't sit in front of the boob tube all day. Yeah.
Well, he was, from what I saw, the children came out of a union between him, a gentleman that believed in the old gods. So his god is Hippocrates.
Yes, and he essentially followed, you know, Greek mythology is where his religion came from.
And the mother, from what I gathered, actually was sort of a hippie that followed more of the peace, love, and sort of Christianity side of things.
Yeah. So that's why they didn't essentially work out, and why he's raising the kids on his own.
She sort of followed her own thing. I think she continued on with her life, and then he took care of the kids. Now, they're up in this cabin, this Lou Temple, Roy, the father, he's brought them up to the cabin to mourn the passing, a year since the passing of his, or their sister.
To me, it's like they live up there. That is their home, forever their home. That's what I took from this.
Oh, I thought it was a vacation sanctuary. Like, they were coming up there specifically to mourn.
It's like they kind of threw it both ways. Like they
could have been.
You know, like most of the time that, you know, the daughter, whose name is Sprout, it's played by Nicole Rhea Sherman. She actually has these vivid nightmares of what she believes is a Gorgon is, you know, invading her life. But all those memories are at this cabin.
I believe the Gorgon was what the father explained took her sister's life.
Which in his mind, to him, well, to her, she sees it as a Gorgon. But I believe it was him the entire time.
Okay.
You know, like...
Well, it definitely was. She was led to believe one thing, and mind you, for a child that has been homeschooled all of her life, both kids homeschooled all of their lives, they were brought up with the ways of the old gods, they were brought up in a manner where they were sort of naive and separated from society. They called that the otherness. Anything that was outside of their teachings was the otherness.
Which is why I feel like they lived up here. Because if you're going to expose your children, if you want to not expose your children to the otherness, you're going to completely seclude them.
Those teachings, though, I believe that's how the folks, you know, way back when the Romans, the Greek, when they were actually praying to these gods more readily, I believe that was how they sort of saw things. You know, if you were told a Gorgon came and took your sister, you started to have vivid memories of this thing. You're able to hallucinate or vividly imagine these things that your father's telling you, because you're left with nothing but your imagination. You're not desensitized by modern television or phones or all the other things that are going on in the world. You have a vivid imagination. That's how you get through the world. That's how you see things.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, they say, like, so to bring it to this level, racism isn't something that is, you're not born racist. You're not born seeing things one-minded. You're not born religious. It's what you're taught throughout your life. And as you're being taught those things, and Chris opened up a polar. But you're not being taught those specific things. Yeah, like you get taught those things. So when you when people are taught to be racist, they now view that as dirty, as bad, as unclean. Right. You know, so as a child being taught that, you know, this bad in your life is a Gorgon or something negative. That's what their mind now.
That's what they're led to believe. Yeah. That's what they're trained to believe from, like, birth.
Right. So, you know, she'll be laying down sleeping. And, you know, her first nightmare was the Gorgon coming into her room. I mean, the Gorgon didn't touch her or anything like that, but the Gorgon had entered her room, which is, in reality, the dad just creeping over her. You know what I mean? Like, watching her, making sure that she's not doing worldly things. Right. In her sleep, which is weird because he gave off a real creep vibe the whole time, and we find out that he's a creep.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, as we got further into the movie, I thought the Gorgon was sort of her sister, leading her to what happened, sort of leading her out into this area where her body was eventually found. Then the Gorgon kind of leads her over to where her father, poor sheriff there, ends up...
Ranger Sheila.
Ranger Sheila, yeah. Woodhouse. She ends up biting it in a rather perverse fashion.
So, with that,
I believe this Gorgon, this initial hallucination might have seemed like the dad, but as it went on, it was sort of like her sister trying to lead her to what was going on, these secrets that her father was keeping, and it was helping her slowly unravel the deceptions that her father was putting forth.
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons why that I saw it as the father was the boy and the girl kissed. So, the boy and the girl kissed, and you see the Gorgon standing in the background move away. You know what I mean? And then come back. Next thing you know, you see the father in the kitchen, and she's like, "Have you seen my son?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I saw him. He was out back in the woods."
Yeah, well, that's technically true.
Technically it was.
He was out back in the woods. The father had dispatched him already.
So he knew exactly where he was. Mind you, I just killed your son, but, let's fuck.
So the main thing that I got out of this movie, and I absolutely loved pretty much everybody in this movie. I read pretty much everybody.
That little boy was creepy.
I'm telling you, I'm talking about the acting jobs here. I'm not saying that, hey, I loved Roy. Roy was a fantastic person. And let me tell you, that little boy, that was Percy.
Yeah, Percy. Percy Grady.
His father named him after Perseus. That little boy was next level, almost Omen creepy. Mm. He was, Omen, Damien from Children of the Corn, Damien or Malachi? One of the two. I don't know. But he was just creepy. And, mind you, he was also viciously protective of his sister.
Yes, because, to me, he never blocked anything out. He saw everything.
Right.
So, let's get back to more of the plot, and then we can, break it down a little bit more.
Okay.
So, essentially, there's a family. They're up in the woods, and Miss Sheila, Ranger Sheila, comes by, says hi, and she's kind of flirty with the father. Now, she lost her husband. He lost his wife. Right. So she feels a special connection. Now, I don't see it, but she felt a special connection. Now, go back to the family aspect itself. It's a very happy family. They're out. They're playing in the woods. He's talking to her like, you need to find your patron god. It's gonna come eventually. And once you find your patron god, you're gonna follow the rules of that patron god.
Right.
The daughter asked, what did Magna, which was her older sister, who had passed away, from what we are told. Magna states, she states that Magna was decided to follow Aphrodite, which is the goddess of love, beauty, passion, and pleasure. And he was not a fan of that. He
thought it was an abomination.
Right.
That's not the god you follow.
Right. You're a whore. You know what I mean? Like, that's
basically
essentially
that's what he was treating
Aphrodite
her like.
Pretty much was. A goddess, but a whore goddess.
Yeah.
She would seduce men. And he didn't like that. So, you don't really get to see it. But, you realize that she came to a tragic end. And he kind of plays it off.
There was a scene. There was a scene as she came to the realization of where her sister died. There was actually a cut scene where you see him physically.
Well, I'm just talking about at this particular point.
Okay, go ahead.
At this particular point, you don't know what happened to her. You get the feeling that she died in a tragic way. And the father.
I don't know. Even at that point, I got the feeling that she tried to leave and the father took her out.
Well, yeah, but he blames it more on the fact that she followed this particular goddess, who wasn't there to protect her, who led her astray and brought her to the brink of death.
Okay.
And at that point, that's when the Gorgon starts really come into play. She goes to sleep. As she's sleeping, the Gorgon approaches her in her sleep. The son, I don't get his whole deal, but he was wearing gloves the entire time. Now, to me, he hated getting dirty, is what it was, what I thought it was.
Right.
Which later on, he just fucking goes balls to the wall.
Yeah, once he takes those gloves off, And that is literally like it's sort of a visual if you think about it. The gloves have come off.
Yeah, essentially, like
once those gloves come off, he is ready to defend his sister. To the teeth. Yeah.
So then we have like pretty much if the children do something wrong, what happens? The father would give because he follows Hippocrates, which is the god of silence, secrets, and confidentiality. At the beginning, they only tell you that it's the god of silence.
Right.
So if you do something wrong, what do? You atone for your sins, and in this particular case, you take a half hour to
silence.
Go take an hour of silence. So it's essentially time out for the children. He would give them what I'm assuming is his schizophrenia pills. If she's you just take one of these, it'll calm you down.
Right.
And I think that he kind of was giving them to her and not taking them, which is why he initially snaps in the end. I feel like he was a very loving father in the beginning. And as he stopped taking his medication, that's when the line of reality and truth blurred.
I feel like the way that his
darkness.
I think the way that his love was. First of all, he was very, very much against temptation. When that Aphrodite thing, the reason why the daughter got killed, that feeling that her goddess was Aphrodite, that temptation, which he warns his youngest daughter against, Sprout, constantly, very forcefully, warns her against those temptations. Mm-hmm. I believe that drive to kind of keep temptation away, the drive to protect his children, I think there was like a fine line for him between love and just batshit crazy. And as long as his kids stayed in line and stayed away from the temptation and stayed away from the otherness, he was a very loving father. Mm. But as soon as they started betraying, he let little bits out of that anger. Little bits here, little bits there. And then as things started to unravel for him, as his daughter started to figure things out, further and further into the movie, he unraveled a bit more and let more of that out. That whole tribal dance that he does in the middle of the movie, it was like a preparation for war.
Yeah, but for the tribal dance thing, even that was more sort of innocent. He let his kids get into it. If I'm not when they were by the fire, are you talking about?
I'm talking about his personal tribal dance, the one that he does. That the first time you really realize that maybe he's a bit unhinged.
But Ranger Sheila ends up coming up to the house,
right?
And like I said, the first time you see him, she's like, "Oh, call me. You'll call me, right? Promise you'll call me." And he ends up calling her.
Right.
She comes over, and she was kind of a bitch. You know what I mean? Like, the daughter sees her father with another woman. She doesn't really like that.
Sprout was kind of a bitch.
They both, were equally a bitch.
And she was telling her, I like your dad, so you're going to just have to deal with this.
Right. And, don't be a fucking bitch. But I took it as her being kind of, it's my way or the highway. Like, you need to learn, little girl. Which it's like, that's not your kid. You shouldn't talk to somebody else's children like that,
No, not at all.
But she ends up going and talking with the father. While that's happening, Sheila's son, which is Max Woodhouse, played by Max Page.
Yes.
So we have him, and he kind of likes Sprout. They're little kids, but he is more worldly.
And she really likes him, but I think that's a lot of that isolation. She's never experienced those emotions before, which is, I think that the actress that played Sprout was actually spot on. I've actually read a few reviews that other people had done stating that they didn't like her performance because it was sort of devoid of emotion. But if you've ever met a child that has been removed from the world, that doesn't understand how things are around them, they tend to be a little bit muted. All I know is my dad. I'm not going to be able to talk to you.
No.
And that's how they approach the world.
Yeah, and she gave as she starts having feelings towards this other little kid. Obviously the opposites attract.
Right.
Well, not all the time, but so she starts seeing this boy, and she's like, oh, I like him, and he sees her, and it's like, oh, it's a girl, she's cute, and he ends up going in for a kiss, which is her first kiss ever. And I don't know, maybe he's a little Mac Daddy at his school or something, but, it could be his first kiss also.
He's also up in the woods, there's no other girls around, whatever.
Right. So he ends up kissing her, and she's accepting of it at first. But then he's like, your dad's kind of a weirdo.
And then she goes into full defensive mode. It's like, my mom's dead, or my dad's dead, your mom's dead. Face it.
Yeah, like, like but she gets all upset, like, no, like, that's not gonna happen, like, that'll never happen. And you kind of see the Gorgon in the background at this particular point in time. And during the kiss.
Right.
Which to me was weird because I thought if he saw them kissing, he would have just snapped right then and there.
Like I said, I don't think it was the dad that saw that. I think the Gorgon that was hanging over them was the sister protecting her. Saying, this is what you should be doing. The sister kind of leading her. Like I said, the sister was a follower of Aphrodite, the goddess of love. So the kiss obviously would have been something that she would have been in favor of. Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm going to let you do you.
But the father shows it as wrong.
The father is something else.
So, like, she kind of like sends him away. You know what I mean? Like, get out of here, loser. Like, my dad's not weird. Your mom's weird. Like, kind of, kid argument.
Right.
And then you skip back into inside the house. And there's Sheila and Roy, and I want to say he's doing dishes. It's been a little bit since we watched.
Right, and this is where they have that conversation about, I'm going to be around for a little bit. I really like your dad, and I think he likes me, so you're going to have to get used to this. And it's like, whether you like it or not, we're going to see each other.
Yeah, and she's like, no, like, that's not going to happen. She goes running out, and as she's kind of exploring the woods... and the son's kind of like just never there.
This is where, so this is, up until this point, the movie's sort of slow.
Yeah.
This point, where she runs out of the house and she ends up out, in an area where she kind of half calls Tartarus.
Yeah, I don't believe that's Tartarus, though. That's like their...
that was her sister's area. The father had put up all sorts of stuff to warn them off of that place. I think they were like hanging like dead animals and all sorts of other stuff.
Do not go
over here.
Area. So,
she went over there, and she, with her brother in tow, because her brother's going to follow along. He's her protector. She kind of comes across this area and decides, rather than to stray away, she ventures in.
And as she proceeds forward, she sees it, which brings back memories of her sister being in that area.
Right.
You know what I mean? Putting it like pink everywhere, making it her own little fortress. And as they end up going into the, as she goes inside, she looks around a little bit, and then she sees the little boy, Max, dead, tied up with a symbol on his head. I believe it was some sort of cross on his head.
I don't think she ran across that first time. So I think... Did she run across him that first time?
Yeah, because like it all happens together.
Because I feel like I remember her running across the girl first. So him and Danielle, or the Ranger Sheila, played by Danielle Harris.
It's the opposite. She sees this, which freaks her out, and then she goes to go like run away.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And then that's when she runs across her dad.
Yeah, and then she sees the two of them walking.
And she follows them.
No, you're right. Yeah, you are right.
Like I said.
And then she runs away from that.
And ends up stumbling across the boy, and then realizes it's also the place where her sister got killed.
Right.
And that's where things start to devolve. The father starts hunting them down.
So what we mean by what she sees, she ends up peeking over and seeing her father and Ranger Sheila going at it. You know what I mean? Which she's mad at it first. And he after...
midway through them doing this,
it was definitely after the release.
No.
He released, and
I'm saying midway through them doing this, his demeanor changed, and he kills her in the middle of the act.
Well, he's even he's like, oh yeah, and he starts like I forget what god. He starts like praying to the gods, like give me your soul, give me your flesh.
He starts yelling, and he starts talking about you're going to tempt me with the lust of the flesh. And
I'm pretty sure he released before he realized because it's all passion at that point. And once he finally released, that's when in his head he's like, oh, I was tempted, you temptress, and then goes at it and starts strangling her and kills her.
No, it was in the middle of the act. He kills her in the middle of the act.
He turns her around.
No, he does not. He kills her in the middle of the act.
You see, this is where we're going to have to rewatch this. Me and Chris are clearly different on this.
We're gonna go to Prime Video on Demand, and we're gonna settle this argument. But I believe that she was killed in the middle of the act. He believes it was after the fact.
This is gonna bring up another apology video.
That being beside the point, we're gonna move on because we have limited time.
He murders
her in cold blood, either during or after the sexual act. His daughter sees it. He locks eyes with his daughter and realizes that she's seen it, and he goes after her. Now, he initially captures her and he ties her up underneath the cabin. And this is the point where him and the boy are having a conversation. So he takes the boy to go have a conversation. He's trying to explain that his sister is tied up. She's
in trouble. She needs this time to reflect on what she did.
And this is where the son starts to realize that Dad is not exactly all right. And he starts...
I think he's always realized it.
I think he may have even known about the sister's death.
Right, like, that's why, like, the reason why he didn't like anything on his hands is somehow he got her blood on his hands.
It was something.
You know, like, that's the only explanation I really come from it. And finally, when... and
this is about where the gloves come off for the little boy.
Yeah, he goes inside the kitchen, and he makes coffee for his father.
Right.
And he crushes up... trazodone
one of those
or something,
tranquilizers.
Crushes up the pills and puts it in his coffee so that his father passes out.
And then he goes outside, and that's when he has to remove the gloves to untie his sister. And he realizes he can't untie the gloves with his sister with the gloves on. He has to take them off to help her. Yeah. And things sort of devolve from there. So I think we should just go into sort of a quick explanation of the end. I don't want to give the ending away to everybody, because while this is a spoiler podcast, I want them to go out and I want them to watch this movie, and I want them to form their own opinions. So, quick low and behold, the quick lowdown, not low and behold, I don't know what the hell is going on in my head there. Basically, this is the fast last 20 minutes of the movie. So, like I said, everything starts picking up as soon as the daughter locks eyes with the father after the murder. And it is just predator and prey throughout the entire thing. They've drugged the dad. The dad eventually wakes up from the drugging because apparently whatever he's going through, he can get past drugs out of his system pretty damn quickly.
Well, that's where I think he's prescribed this specific medication. Now,
right. He may have been already used to it.
Trazodone, for someone who is not schizophrenic, will put you to sleep.
Right.
But if you are schizophrenic, trazodone keeps you alert and aware.
You know this personally?
Yes. I've taken trazodone to sleep. It's a schizophrenic medicine, but if you do not have schizophrenia, it puts you to sleep.
Okay, I'm just making sure you're on your meds.
I'm not schizophrenic.
Just making sure you're on your meds.
No, it's a legitimate thing. So maybe it was some sort of psychological medicine that, like he gave him a few of them to put him to sleep, but his body's so used to being on that drug that he only slept for X amount of time, and then he woke up, realized, like, full swing crazy.
Yeah. Well, he feels like he's going to make his children repent for what they did. And I don't think he ever intended to kill them, but they certainly intended to kill him. Yeah. Because they know what he's been doing, and they don't want to deal with it anymore.
And what he ends up breaking out, right, and this isn't a spoiler, well, I guess...
Well, I really actually don't think we should talk anymore about the... you can talk about it if you'd like.
This is about when he's giving Sprout the lecture.
Right.
But as he's tying her up. And he's like, my God, Harpocrates, not Hippocrates or anything other than Harpocrates, is the god of silence and secrets.
Deception.
And confidentiality.
Yes.
So even though, like, these things have happened, his God allows him to keep these secrets. As long as he repents to his God, he is fine. Right. And, that's why
that's why this is his God, because he's done a lot that he needs to keep under wraps.
Right. And, nobody should know that.
All right, so I'm not going to go into much more about the movie. I don't want to give away the ending. For a normal podcast, I would say, screw it, let's do it. But I think that we should leave the ending to their imaginations and let them basically watch it and make their own opinions. As far as I'm concerned... Cinematography was fantastic throughout. Beautiful visuals. It was a little slow burn at the beginning, but I feel that it was purposeful. It was that slow because that was their way of life. You are brought into their way of life with the beautiful visuals. You've got the mountain cabin, and you are dealing with a couple of people that are not part of the quick pace of life. So this is not a movie that's going to be action from beginning to end. And I feel like the rating for IMDb, which is currently a 5.3, is actually kind of unfair. I would have given it at least a 7.
I would have given it a 6.
Okay. I mean, you had a differing opinion of the movie. You felt different.
I agree with you. The visuals were great. The direction of the movie was great.
Lou Temple was fantastic. And Sprout, yeah, I mean, she was fantastic, too.
You know, Percy friggin' Grady, Tate, I don't remember his last name. He kind of creeped me out the entire time.
But that was his purpose.
It kind of like explains it, you know.
I feel like Danielle Harrison and Max there, they could have been interchangeable. Mm-hmm. I mean, I felt they were all right for what they were, but Danielle Harris is sort of one of those actresses that you give her a decent role. You give her a good meaty role and she'll do a good job with it. If you give her bare bones, it's just, she's going to take away from the people in the scene that she's in.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that you want to focus on, because she's a bit role in this movie. So I feel like she was sort of, it was unfair of her, not unfair of her, but unfair to kind of have her in that role, because honestly, she is sort of a spotlight stealer, and she needs to be in an area where she has the spotlight, not a secondary character. That being said, go ahead. I'm running all over your opinion too. Why did you give it a 6?
It's just it's not the actors. I got to give it the story itself. Just because it started so slow, and then everything that made it a thriller really was squeezed into that last 20 minutes of the movie. Now this is, you have an hour's worth of what the fuck.
Yeah.
And then you squeeze everything. If you extend the movie a little longer,
how long did you want the chase scene with the dad to go on?
Exactly. You know what I mean? It was just the chase, but maybe, put a little bit more of his secret out there that, like, in the background. You don't really see too much of it in the beginning, and then they just like, but by the way, breaking news, he was a little weird, but it didn't show how weird. Like, maybe they should have thrown more of that in at the beginning. If they threw more of that in at the beginning, okay, this would have been a great movie. But it's just because they just threw it all in at the end. Like, it's kind of like, all right, we're going to draw things out of a hat, and then you draw, like, a 4-paragraph thing. Like, oh, shit, all right, we'll just use that for the last scene.
Right. All right, so, that being said, I give it a 7. Zeph gives it a 6. That means it's about a 6.5 overall for both of us.
6.2.
6.5. That's halfway in between. You know averages. Do your math.
I know averages, but...
All right. I just want to go ahead, as we're wrapping this up, I want to give a quick thank you to Tricoast for allowing us to review this, watch this pre-release. I thank you very much for allowing us to do that, and we hope we can work with you in the future, and we'll be a little bit more time conscious in the future. And anything else you'd like to say?
Just, I 100% appreciate the opportunity. I hope you enjoy our review of your movie. Obviously, we didn't hate the movie.
No, we did not hate it at all. And trust me, if you've listened to some of the stuff we watched in the past, when we hate something, we really hate on it.
Yeah, we are not afraid to do so. Obviously there was some time constrictions, and even this week, like, we try to get this together earlier. It's just,
And we tried to get this together a week ago.
Yeah, I just really didn't have the time. Now I have a lot more time, so. And
don't forget to go ahead and watch Between the Darkness, A.K.A. Here Comes the Night.
Both of those don't really go, though.
It is on Vudu. It is on Prime
Fandango.
And Fandango, video on demand. Thank you very much, and from Cinematic Anarchy, me and Zeph, have a wonderful night, day, or mid-afternoon.
We out.
It's a mic drop?
Yeah, mic drop.
Pen drop?
Pen drop.
Okay.
Raindrop. Drop top. Smoking a coconut hot box.